I'm Laura from Garden Sanity, and this morning I'm talking all about Kramer's Red Winter Heath. What is Kramer's Red Winter Heath? Why, it's this beautiful fuchsia magenta looking little shrub right here. It's stunning. It looks pretty in the winter when it's against evergreens such as this Manhattan Euonymus. And it looks equally gorgeous next to daffodils and other spring blooming bulbs. It's really funny that this shrub is primarily sold in the springtime when it actually blooms in the winter. It blooms usually from January through April. This year, and you can see in the video I marked above, it started blooming for me in December. It looked like this in January, February, March, and here we are early April. As a little aside, when I pruned back my knockout roses, which I did a couple of weeks ago, I said that I hoped once the daffodils came out it would sort of camouflage these little stubs. And when I pull back, that's what it's doing, so yay for me. So I originally just planted 2 shrubs here. And then I added the third one that you see in the back. They definitely look best in groups. It's nice to group things in 3s. But this is a nice looking lamppost bed in the springtime. And then you see over here in the next garden, that's the original Kramer's Red Winter Heath that I planted. I've been growing Kramer's Red Winter Heath for years now, since probably about, I don't know, 2014, 2015. So I definitely have some experience in how these do. Look how pretty the bulbs are. These are Tete-a-Tete Daffodils, by the way. And in the back there are some Cragford Daffodils. So what's nice about Kramer's Red Winter Heath, besides the fact that it's a blooming machine all winter long, is that it's great for early pollinators. It's kind of a cloudy day right now, but I'm telling you, bees come out and love this plant. So it's a really nice thing. You can feel like you're doing something good. Now right now what you see is a mix of what look like almost pinkish brownish blooms, as well as the gorgeous magenta fuchsia blooms. The pinkish brown ones are actually flowers starting to fade. But this will go on like this for easily this next month. And what's really nice is that the pinkish brownish blooms will continue to fade, drop off on their own, and blow away. No cleanup on your part. This shrub looks really nice mixed with other evergreens. Behind it is a blue star juniper. Next to it is a Helleri Japanese holly. I'll show you a picture when I first planted these. You can see how small they were. There's 2 shrubs. Now it looks like 1 shrub. But these were 2 shrubs. And then over time they filled in. And they just look beautiful. In terms of pruning, I don't really prune them much at all. At the edge here, I will prune them back a little bit. Like you can see, let's just look down a little bit. You can see how some of this sticks out a little bit. I'll prune that a little bit, but I kind of let them go. You know, I try to keep them in check. Anything that gets a little too wild, I will prune back. The edges mostly. If you're going to do any pruning of these, do them no later than late April, as all the flowers are fading, because this plant starts putting out the new flower, what would you call it, flower buds, pretty quickly. In fact, here is what the plant looks like once all the blooming is done. And you can see it's a nice green color, but you can see the new growth is the bright green. And then shortly after that in the summer, you can already start seeing some of the new flower buds that are growing. Usually happens more towards later summer, but you definitely can notice it. So that makes this shrub still a really good one in the garden during the summer. Provides some nice green color. So here's another beautiful arrangement of Kramers Red Winter Heath. I've shown you this in other videos. I planted these two purposely on each side of what is a white heather plant. Heather usually blooms in the summer. Heath blooms in the winter. Although, as I've just mentioned, this Kramers Red Winter Heath will bloom through the end of this month, so that's kind of springtime. And as you can also see, there are flowers still on this white heather. As I've mentioned before, I don't know what kind of white heather this is. I wish I did, because it almost seems to bloom year round. But I like how this looks. I've shown you this a zillion times, and I'll never get tired of it myself. It looks really great. I mean, when I first planted it, you know, they look like 3 separate plants, and now it's just a nice little arrangement. You got the daffodils nearby. Makes it look really pretty. So one way to tell the difference between a heath and a heather is what the greenery looks like, or the needles. If you look at this white heather, you see what these needles look like. They call them scale. If I pull back, and now we'll look at the needles on a Kramers Red Winter Heath, you see they're more literally needly-like. Boy, I don't know if you can hear that bee buzzing around, but it's just so wonderful to see. Okay, reality check. There's trash. There's trash. Ugh. We'll just be quiet about that. So I didn't get over here to clean this garden bed up yet. So that's why you still have some leaves in here, some cleanup that needs to be done. The white heather I'm thrilled about, because this looked not so great last year. Let me give you a closer look. Last spring, a lot of the white heather looked like this. It was a lot of dead stuff. See how there's a couple of dead sections? I cut a lot of that back, and boy, did it bounce back. I mean, this looks really great. Obviously, there's a few more sections I need to cut out, but it looks wonderful. But as far as these two guys are concerned, I'm not really going to do anything to them. I'll let them continue doing their thing. I'll probably cut a little bit back off. It's interesting the way they bloom. You see on this side, doesn't seem to be as many blooms. Actually, what I'm noticing, looks like there was some pruning done. You see this? Oh. To answer your question, deer don't bother this plant. It's unknown if rabbits do. Now I'm wondering. Yeah. It's possible the pandemic rabbits nibbled on this guy. I wouldn't be surprised. God knows they've been nibbling on everything else. Now, these plants take, I would say, this is an unofficial estimation, I would say at least 3 years to get established. So let me show you some additional Kramers Red Winter Heath I have in this bed. I've got my little lime hydrangeas back here, which I'm going to be pruning shortly. That'll be another upcoming video. It's super easy to do. See, my Kalimeris is coming back nicely. Boy, that's going to be a future video. Those plants, they're perennials that bloom periwinkle colored, daisy looking like flowers. That's hard to say. Anyway, those bloom from, I'd say, May through frost, almost frost. There's a blue star juniper, some ice Follies Daffodils, Tete-a-Tete Daffodils, Japanese Helleri that needs to be pruned a little bit. I do like its size, but I will shape that a little bit. So here are, and you've seen these in other videos too, so with tons of leaves around them yet again. These guys look a lot more black right now too, and that's not uncommon. So don't think if you see that your winter heath is not doing well. They tend to get this dark as the winter turns into spring, which is all the more reason the blooms stand out. It's so pretty. But if you see these guys look a little bit, yeah, oh God, these have been nubbed. Look at the nubs. Nubbed is not a verb. I'm just upset with the rabbits. Okay, so anyway, didn't clean this bed yet. Definitely need to clean this bed. And by the way, I cleaned it once already in end of February. That's how many leaves we get. Anyway, so these were planted probably, this may be going on its third season now. And they're only just, in my opinion, starting to look decent. They've been kind of struggling a little bit, even though they get nice shade from this birch tree, which is great. And they get shade also from this little lime hydrangea. So they're finally starting to kick in, which is good. Here's the bed so you can see it more fully. This grows in zones 6 to 8. Some people have been able to successfully grow it in zones 5. You'll see this at the big box stores in the spring. I've not seen it at nurseries, but maybe I'd be surprised. I've got excellent nurseries around here, but they don't carry it. So you'll see it sometimes called Kramers Red Winter Heath, and you will sometimes on plant tags see Kramers Red Winter Heather. Either way, this is the plant to get. They sell it in the spring. Plant it in the spring, the blooms will fade, but then next year you're going to be like in December or January, like, oh my goodness, what is this gorgeous plant in my garden? So I hope you enjoyed this little tour. I hope you consider adding this shrub to your garden. It truly does have 4-season interest as far as I'm concerned, because it's a reliable shrub with color, green color year-round. It's a nice foil for fall leaves. And the show in winter into spring is just divine.